everyone, and welcome to Pinterest versus Reality. I'm your host, Riley. Each episode, I will be recreating a DIY project that I find on Pinterest and test my artistic skill. Today, I will be talking about how to create a melted crayon art on a pumpkin. I figured that it would be fitting since Halloween is right around the corner. And since some people may not be into carving pumpkins, then they would be able to attempt this no-carve pumpkin craft. Before we begin, there are a few items that we will need. We will need a real white pumpkin, crayons, and make sure it is a 16 pack at the smallest, scissors, tacky glue, a hairdryer, and paper bags. Once you have all these materials, we are ready to begin. The first step of the process is to remove the crayons from their wrappers. It is easiest to accomplish this by finding where the wrapper ends, since it will already have a little lip on it. Next, we will cut the crayons in half. The reason being that we do this is so that the crayons fit on top of the pumpkin when it comes time to gluing. Before I began gluing, I put the crayons on the pumpkin so that I would be able to position them and know exactly how many I would need. I ended up only using 10, but don't be afraid to use more. Once you have positioned the crayons, you can begin to glue them down to the pumpkin. You want to make sure that you are only placing the glue on the top flat part of the pumpkin. The gluing process was the part that took the longest for me. It took around 30 minutes for the glue to be completely dry. It is important that you make sure the glue is dry before you go on to the next step. Trust me, I learned this the hard way. I also suggest laying down paper bags to make sure that the wax does not end up on anything if you are doing this project inside. After you have the paper bags laid down, you can now begin to melt the crayons. I had my hair dryer set on high and held it pretty close to the pumpkin. It still took me around 10 to 12 minutes until the crayons were completely melted. Now, the reason that I said that this is very important to make sure that your glue is completely dry is because if it isn't, as soon as you take the hairdryer to it, the crayon will move or even blow off the pumpkin. You can also experiment a little bit if you would like. What I did was I aimed the hairdryer in different directions so that the colors would be all over the pumpkin and not just on one side, instead of just keeping the hairdryer pointed at the one crayon the whole time and aiming it down. It gives you a little bit more of a variety on the pumpkin. The crayons dried pretty quick after they had began to melt. I gave it about another 10 minutes before I displayed mine outside on the deck. This project took me about an hour and a half to do. The longest part of this project was definitely waiting for the glue to dry. The project was also very cheap to recreate. The total was around $6. I already had the scissors, so that costed me nothing. The only things that I had to purchase were the crayons, which I found for 57 cents, tacky glue for $1.27, and a white pumpkin, which I found for $3.88. Earlier, I showed you the picture of Pinterest version of the pumpkin. Now here's a side-by-side comparison of my pumpkin versus Pinterest version. Now, what did I learn after doing this project? Well, I learned that although I enjoyed this project, it wasn't as nice looking as the one that I had found on Pinterest. I also discovered that it took a lot longer to do this than I thought it would. I would definitely attempt this project again come next Halloween, but maybe take a different take on it or colors of crayons that I use. Besides all this, I would definitely highly recommend someone who's interested in trying a DIY project to attempt this pumpkin craft. My sisters also attempted this project. However, they took 5 hours to complete theirs versus my hour and a half, and as a result, theirs turned out much better than mine did. Instead of melting all the crayons at once, they waited for each one to melt individually before going on to the next so that the wax wouldn't run together. Their patient levels and artistic skills definitely outbeat me this time. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any ideas for my next DIY project, comment below. I will be looking for a Thanksgiving craft to do. Until then, this has been Pinterest versus Reality.